Hi everybody, welcome to our character plate workshop. If you're joining me in half term, then yay to no school, home learning for a week, very exciting. So not sure what character you've chosen, but this workshop does apply regardless of what you've asked for, or maybe mum or dad have asked as a surprise. So I'm going to be painting one of the crewmates from Among Us. I've already painted orange and red, so I thought today I would paint green. But again, it doesn't matter what colour you're painting or if you've chosen to paint Fortnite or Sonic. Whatever character you've asked for, you've got a picture in your box. So the first thing to do, if you haven't already, is open up your lovely workshop box and have a look at the bits inside. I just want to run through quickly without being too boring. Obviously there are instructions written down in there. I do think it is easier and it's a bit more fun to watch a video and paint along, because sometimes trying to put into words what you need to do can be a little bit tricky. So the bits you need that aren't in your box, things like scissors, a bowl of water, a piece of kitchen towel. For the palette, if you haven't got a palette, I just tend to use like a plastic lid or something. It's only for mixing your paint colours, so don't worry too much. And it does all wash out. It's not like acrylic paints. So the little list I've got there on the instructions of all the bits you need extra. I do actually prefer to use a biro, but you can use a pencil. So just make sure you've got all your gear to hand. And the good thing about following the video is obviously you can pause me at any time. So if you need to go and grab something, or if you need a wee, or if you want to eat the chocolate biscuit that I enclosed in the box for you as a little treat, then you can just pop me on pause and come back when you're ready. So I'm going to show you, this is the image that I've got in my kit. Now, even though I'm painting green, it doesn't matter about the colour of your crewmate, because the main thing is for this is just the outline, okay? So whether you've got your Sonic the Hedgehog or you've got one of these, the first thing you need to do is to cut out your image, okay? So just cutting along the lines here so that you end up with one that fits perfectly on the centre of your plate. So using the sponge that I've put in your pack, all you need to do is just sponge over the front and the back. I'm using my fingers because actually I did forget to put the sponge in. Here we go, but you will have one in your pack. So just to brush off any dust basically, and then dust the back of your plate as well. Blow any paint away and set the plate down in front of you. So just to have a little idea, it's going to go just there in the centre like this, okay? So I've printed these to the right size to make sure that they do fit nicely on your plate. So in your kit, you've got a very flimsy looking piece of paper, it looks like this. You've either got one that's got a green stamp on, or you might have one with a smiley face in the corner, depending on which one I've given you. So little smiley face or green stamp. Okay, that is telling you which way up your paper needs to be, and this is really important because it can be a bit frustrating if you put it on the wrong way round. So the stamp or the smiley face needs to be facing upwards to the ceiling. Okay, that goes down directly onto your plate. Okay, we're going for the centre of the plate. And then your cutout image goes on top of your carbon transfer. Now remember, stamp or smiley face facing upwards. Now, a good thing to do is just check before you start that you can trace. This is how we trace the image on. So you can either do this on the back of the plate, or you can be brave. If you've got your stamp facing up, then you are the right way round. And you can, just if I show you, around the edge of your character, it's really important that with whichever hand, whether you're right-handed or left-handed, with the hand that you're not using the pen, that you keep a firm press on here, because you don't want it to start moving around, because otherwise your lines are going to be all over the place. And you can just have a sneaky peek to make sure that you have got a little line on your plate. Can you see that there? Just a tiny, tiny line underneath my image. I just did that to make sure that it's definitely coming through. Now, whether you use a pencil or a pen, as I say, I just find it easier with a pen. And as you can see, I'm pressing really hard. I'm not scribbling, but I'm just drawing that line in, okay? And I'm going to go all the way around the outside of my character, okay? So let's do all the outside lines together first. And then we're going to go in and do the inside lines. So again, holding really tight with this hand. If you're not comfortable with this bit and you're going to get frustrated, which is not a nice feeling, you could always ask one of your grown-ups to do this little bit for you, because the painting is obviously the fun part. So if you'd rather them get the image on the plate, I'm sure that any excuse, they're always happy to get involved and to help. So I'm down to the edge of his mask now. I'm just going to go around the outside. So basically, anywhere that you can see lines, and with the Among Us characters, obviously he's got a really thick border, so you need to do the inside and the outside. So I've been around the outside of the mask, now I'm going to go around the inside and all the different bits of shading as well. What I might do is just pop you on pause for a minute so that I can get all of my character onto the plate, because otherwise it's a bit boring just watching me do this. And then I'll come back to you in a minute and see how you're all getting on, okay? Okay, how are you doing? Have you managed to get all of that on? So I'm ready to take off my paper now. So I've just made sure I've looked in the light, because you can obviously see where you've gone over with the pen or the pencil. And I've just made doubly sure that I managed to get all the shading in as well, like the little cloud in his mask, and just where the dark and the light change. And then if you take off carbon, can you see it there, all ready to paint in? So that's quite clever, isn't it? And what will happen is when we put this through our kiln, the any lines that are visible, they will just burn away, which is very, very handy. So if you've got any bits that are sticking out outside your lines, don't worry about that, because it'll all just disappear. So the next part is going to be adding your colour. So I would recommend starting with the outside line, because if you remember the little guy, he's got quite a thick border of black going around him. So I would get all of that on first and allow that to dry before I started worrying about my colour. Just black can be a little bit messy, so obviously if you go in the line a little bit, we can correct it when we add all the colour. So let's start with the black, shall we? So you will have a little pot of black paint. It looks really mean, but it goes a very, very long way. So you can use this directly from the pot. I would recommend starting with the thin brush that I've given you. Okay, just to get your lines on, and you're almost tickling the paint on, rather than just sort of going for it and drawing it all on. Following, can you see? Just following the lines that I've got from doing my tracing. You can kind of, you're gonna have to be really, really precise with this if you want nice clean lines. Okay, just keep going back and forth into your little pot. You can see that. And I'm just feathering it really gently. I'm not worrying about the middle, I'm just getting my edges on. Do all the outer edge first, and then you can come back and do the inner edge, and then using your thicker brush, you can fill in the middle. How's that going on for you? If you cough or sneeze or go outside the lines a little bit, black is a little bit tricky to get rid of. But what you can do, if you've got cotton buds up in the bathroom and you just wet it a little bit, you can just take any smudges off just gently by going round with a cotton bud. Again, like I say, black is harder. It's the hardest colour to get off. When I do painting, when I do writing for people on their pottery in the studio, I always tend to offer them grey rather than black, because grey does come off much easier. Here we are. So I started going, don't forget to do the bottom bit. Look, can you see he's not stood on anything, he's got a shadow underneath him, so obviously that needs to be included as well. Can you see what I've done with my line there? I'm just getting my nice lines on to start with, and then we'll fill in all the middle bits. So again, you don't want to watch me just painting lines. So if I pause you, and then I'll come back to you once I've done all my outlining, and we'll have a look at putting the colour on together. Okay, see you in a minute. Okay, how you doing? So does yours look a little bit like mine? That has taken me, it's not a race, but just to give you an idea in case you thought that you were taking a long time, that's taken me about 20 minutes to put the outline on. And I hardly breathe. Do you notice when you're painting like really tiny bits, you hold your breath? There he is. So that's the outline, but you can still see just inside there, look, see where your shading lines need to be? Okay, so don't panic either that he started to go a little bit grey. That's just because the paint is drying. You do need to make sure that you've gone over with 2 coats of the black. So if you've only done 1 layer, just as it started to dry now, just go on and add another layer of black so that it stands out really clearly, okay? And don't panic if you, I mean, I've gone outside the line a tiny bit just there, look, because obviously you've got to have a really, really steady hand for the brush. There we go. If you feel like this has taken a long time, don't worry if you want to put this aside and pick it up another time tomorrow. So perhaps if you've only got half an hour to do some painting today, it can be a project that goes on over a couple of days. You don't have to do it all at once. So don't start rushing because you're in a panic to finish. You can pick this back up again another day. So the only thing, if you do that, make sure that you seal your paint pots up so that they don't dry out. So I'm going to use my bowl of water, and I'm just going to clean out all the black off my brush, and then on my kitchen roll just here. It's always important that you dry your brushes off. You don't want any water to go in your paint. There we are. So nice clean brush ready for the next colour. So I'm going to seal up my black a minute because I finished with that for a second. So depending on what colour crewmates or what colour your character is, I'm going to start now with the lighter part of him. So obviously I'm painting green, so I'm going to do light green just on those 2 little pieces there, and then I'll show you how to darken it up so that we can do some shading. Okay, so let's grab my green pot. Here we go. So I'm going to stick with my little liner brush. I quite like this one. I think I'm going to line, let me see. So I'm going to line the outside here, and I'm going to line just this little bit there, and then I'll move on to my slightly thicker brush just to do the middle section, but I'm almost putting a green border on so that I'm not going into my black paint. Again, you need 2 layers of colour, all right? So if I just make a little start with the green, and then I will show you. Here we are. So I'm just gonna paint around my black. It's hard to do it upside down. The good thing with the black is if the green goes into a little bit, the black is what will actually show through because it's the darker colour. So don't panic if you get a little bit of green on your black. There we are. Can you see what I'm doing? So basically I'm going to go around here now and I'm going to paint all that green, and then just the top of this little arm, which looks a little bit like a handle. So if you want to do the same. You breathe in, or are you holding your breath like me? Turn your plate as well. You will find it easier to get along the lines if you turn your plate. Don't worry either if your paint looks a little bit lumpy. It's quite a chalky paint, which is lovely because it means it washes out of everything. So if you get anything on your clothes or get anything on the kitchen table, then it will all just wash off. But it does look a little bit uneven. But remember, this is going to come back to us. So you're going to, once you finish, you're going to ask Mum or Dad to pop it back to the studio so that we can glaze and fire it for you. That means that your design is completely sealed on. It also means that it's safe to eat food off and you can wash it. And what will happen is when we glaze and fire, all this uneven paint will melt and you'll be left with a nice smooth finish. So again, you want to apply 2 layers of the green, or whatever colour you're on at the moment. You see how he's coming together? He's looking a bit cute, isn't he? All your friends are going to be absolutely amazed when they see your plate and you tell them you painted it all yourself. How cool is that? See, I stuck with my little brush after. There was me saying I'll use the bigger brush to fill in the middle, but actually I do like this little brush. It's going on nicely. So when you apply your second layer, you can be a little bit less precise because obviously all your lines are on. There we are. So then I'm just going to go over, if you've got any patchy bits, you can just go over and add a second layer. Again, you are going to notice that it starts to fade and look quite light, but that is just because it's drying. You haven't done anything wrong. And as long as you've got 2 layers of colour on, you don't need to do any more. 2 really good layers. So it's completely covered. If I'm going too fast, just pause me. It's absolutely fine. Do it all in your own speed. I feel like I'm going really slowly, but that's because I'm taking real care. It's such a bold character that it is nice to have really bold lines. Obviously, if you've got a more complicated character, it's going to take longer again. And you are just, every time you change colour, just remember that you are washing out your brush and drying it thoroughly before you dip into the new pot of colour. There we are. So that's the front of him. There we go. So I'm just going to put this little bit on the top of his arm. And then I'm done with my light my light green. I think green was actually one of the most popular choices. Green and red. There. Okay, so I'm gonna, here's my bowl. I'm gonna wash that out a minute and dry it off on my towel. So that's light green done. I'll pop that down a minute. Now, obviously to get a darker shade of the colour you're using, we are going to need to add a little bit of black. So, let's move the plate out of the way a minute, because you don't want to splash anything onto your plate. That would be really sad at this point. So don't mix it into your pot of green, because otherwise the whole pot's going to go dark, and you may in the end want to do some decorating around the rim with this green colour. So taking your bigger brush, just put in, you see that there? Just put in a dab. Well, actually, just looking, yeah, that should be fine. Three good blobs of the green. Smooth it onto your palette, and then wash your brush, dry it off, and then with your blacks, you've got a nice clean brush now, and you've got your black paint. All I'm going to do, you really don't need much black at all, it's just literally a bit on the end, and then can you see I'm mixing that into the green. Just take quite a bit of mixing. If you've got a proper palette, it will be a little bit easier because it keeps it all in one place, but plastic lid is fine as well. And can you see, you want to get rid of any streakiness, but if you can see, you're mixing, and that has just changed the colour of the green. So you've got a darker shade of it. There we go. So what I'm going to do is pop that down on my kitchen roll a minute. Just with my little brush, I'm going to check that I feel that that's a good enough difference in colour. I think I need to add a little bit more black, because looking at that on there, that doesn't look that much darker. So just go in with your little brush, tiny bit again, and add some more. And we're just going to do this until we reach a colour that you feel is a couple of shades darker than what you started with. There's no right or wrong to this, okay? It's however dark you want to go, but you don't want to add too much black at once, because you'll just end up with a pot of black. I'm going to be brave. So I've done three dabs. 3 little dabs of black. And you want to make sure you've got around the 3 initial blobs, because you don't really want to be mixing it again. You want to just stick to the same colour for all of it. And actually there's not a great deal that needs to be this colour. Right, I'm going with this colour, okay? Because I feel that it is a darker shade to what I started with. Yeah, definitely. There we go. So, around we go again. And you're just lining. You can definitely see the difference in colour. It's good. So you're just going up to where the lighter green is, look. And you're bordering around here, and then you can fill in the middle. It's up to you whether you keep me on the screen. So I'm just going to paint this bit in. or you can pause me and come back when you're done. Oh, I'm not very good at upside down painting, guys. Let's turn it back round. Looking forward to seeing all these come back in. So you'll have to ask Mum or Dad now to check what times our studio is open, because obviously with everything that's going on at the moment, we're not open as we normally are, but we are open a few days a week for you to pop your pottery back into us and we'll get it glazed and fired. So just ask them to check what our times are. There is a little form in with your plate that you need to fill in so that I know who to ring when your plate is ready. Definitely see the difference in this colour now. Hopefully you can see the same. And remember that when your pottery's fired, it always fires a bit darker anyway. Colours are more vibrant after firing. Oh, just checking that in between his legs here, I just wanted to double check, there is actually there's no colour, so don't make the mistake of going in between there with the green. Okay, because that is just your background plate colour. Now we don't need to paint the plate. Where you want to leave it white, just leave the plate as is. So see the little cloud in his mask? When we come to do that in a minute, you won't actually paint that, you're just going to leave that white. Right, I might just pop you on pause a minute and I'll come back to you once I've finished filling in all my dark green, just in case anybody's already finished and you're feeling a bit fed up of watching the top of my head. There you go, he's starting to come together, isn't he? Right, I'll see you in a minute. Right, I'm back again. Just cleaning my brush off because I've got the dark green paint on there, so I'm just gonna dry. Now, I'm looking at my little guy, and I don't know whether you can see, but I have gone over just here and just here. I've gone over the black a little bit more than I would have liked to. So with my black pot of paint and a nice clean brush, I'm just going to go back in and I'm just going to go over where I need to define those bits of black. So if you've gone over, I know I said that the black will come through, which it will, but I just feel I'd be happier if I tidied up my edges a little bit. See, that looks a bit better now, doesn't it, where I've gone back in? Okay, and then there's just a tiny bit on his head that I've obviously moved. So just ever such a tiny bit of black. Ta-da! I like him. Right, should we do his face? He hasn't got much of a face, really. His little mask. So in your kit you will have a pot of blue paint, and then obviously we're looking at where we've got to do shade, and I'm going to wash my brush because I've still got a bit of black on there. Let's give that a dry. Okay, so we're going to want just this top section of his mask where the little cloud, I don't know whether it's a cloud or what it is really, or maybe it's just the glare, perhaps, but it looks like a cloud, so I'm going to call it a cloud. So basically you're going around that, and just this tiny section here is blue. And then we're going to do the same again then with darkening. Do you remember what we did with the green where we added a little bit of black? So we're going to put the light blue on first, and then we're going to add some dark blue to do underneath his mask. So if you take a little bit of the blue, here we go. So, and again, you want two coats of colour. This is a nice light sky blue. Oh, I've got a shaky hand now. And turn around because I can't do back to front paint. So you might find it easier to get all of your edge on first before you start worrying about that cloud. When you're going around the cloudy bit, kind of do it as if you are painting on a cloud, because otherwise you're just going to have a straight edge. Does that make sense? So if you feel your edges are too straight, you can just put a few little bits sticking in like that, see? See what I've done? Just to emphasise the shape a little bit. And like I say, if you find any of these bits tricky, don't get frustrated, because I know how much grown-ups love painting and they'll be happy to have any excuse to come and help you. So if you're not sure of anything, or you just need a bit of help with maybe popping the edges in around your mask to get that fluffy kind of look, just ask and I'm sure they'll be straight there. Okay, I'm going to add a few more bubbly bits in around the screen bit. Mine look a bit like teeth. That is a little bit tricky, you know. There you go. Okay, so we're going to take a bit of blue. You really don't need a lot, so I probably just go with 3 blobs of the little one, really. Let's swirl the brush, dry it off, and then take a dab of the black. And that's made a kind of grey colour, which is the right colour for underneath. Yeah, and I'm just painting that. Definitely just one little dab of the black is all you need for this one. I barely use my thick brush. I don't know about you guys. I've done everything with this little one. What do you reckon? I think it's all right. So, the next thing to decide, let's clean our brush. And I tell you what, let's put the tops on our paints as well, just for a minute. So the next thing to decide really is whether you want to do anything around the rim of your plate. So you could, for example, with the sponge I gave you, you could just sponge around the very outside of the rim, going all the way around. So you've got sort of the green colour going around if you want to. Or if you want it to look like the one on the instructions, which has got the wording on. When I did mine for Harry, my little boy, he very rarely eats anything green or vegetable-like. So I thought it was quite a funny quote to have, Harry is eating vegetables, he is definitely sus around the bottom. And I know lots of the parents really liked that wording. So if you decide that that's what you would like on yours, it would be quite nice if it was your writing rather than mine. But I will, rather than getting you to do it with a brush, because it's really, really hard to do writing with a brush, I will use one of my paint pens when the plate is returned to me for firing. So all you need to do with a pencil, and very, very lightly, because if you press really heavily, it's really difficult for me to glaze. I just want you to write on the wording you'd like on there, okay? And then I will be able to paint that on for you when it comes in for firing. So let's just say, for example, let's see. Archie. Got any Archies on? Here we are. I will write it all because obviously, can you see how lightly you need to go for me? And then what I'll do is because that's obviously going to be your writing, you might just put your name, you might decide to go on the back and put Jonathan, age 5, or well, actually if you're 5 and you've done this plate, then you're very clever. Maybe Jonathan, age 12, or something like that on the back. We will happily put any writing on there that you want. Or as I say, if you prefer just to do some designs with the colours that you've got and the paintbrushes and the sponges I've given you, then obviously, you know, feel free to do your own thing. It's completely up to you. It's your plate. But I really, really hope you've enjoyed the workshop. I've loved painting along with you, and I look forward to seeing all of your plates when they come in to me for firing over the next few weeks. And when I hand them back to you, just remember it's best not to put them in the dishwasher, just because they do get battered about a little bit, and if it chips, water will get inside your plate and that will cause cracking. The other thing, we don't recommend our plates for microwave use either, because the pottery just heats up far too fast, and it does cause what's called crazing, like a crackly effect in the glaze, which means that your plate is no longer food safe. So definitely wash it by hand, and if you've let your dinner go cold, you might have to warm it up on a different plate. All right, so there you go. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of half term, if it is still indeed half term, and I will see you all very soon. Thanks very much.